Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Cañas. Hope everyone's having a great day. Today, I am doing a persuasive speech on why should voting for the ID must be mandatory. Now, this is an issue that it's been coming up lately, and many people have different beliefs and thoughts or different point of views on this specific topic. But in today's speech, I am going to be hopefully explaining the good side on why this should be mandatory and how this information could actually provide or help somebody to or think, hey, this is maybe a good idea. So with that, enjoy. But to begin this this presentation, many claims that does this help with voting fraud? Does this does not help with voting fraud? And the question to that is actually stops voting fraud. Having an ID in hand, it creates to stop all voting fraud in all the presidential and midterm elections. So as we accommodate all of these fraud with the voter ID mandatory, this conspiracy of like, hey, is this a fraud? Are these elections frauds? We have different sides saying that, oh no, it's either true, it's either false. This photo ID mandatory will stop all of these conspiracies saying that, hey, there is some voting fraud going on. With the photo ID mandatory, could actually, help. Hey, this isn't true. Many people don't know who's voting and whether they're double voting or not. And so when we look into the polls, we have a lot of people voting into the elections, as the midterms, the primaries, the presidential elections. We have a lot of people voting all the time, and whether a lot of people don't know whether if those individuals are actually double voting or not, it's kind of harder to tell. And who are those individuals? So a lot of people they lack on their confidence when they go vote, because many don't know if this person is a citizen or if this person is not a citizen. This could also stop all voter impersonation issues as we develop more and more impersonations in almost all the elections, and it's not fair to those that are just simply just wanting to go vote and just be done and be over with. There's a lot of voting impersonating going on, but with voter identification, it can also be a great protection for everyone in the elections. As we look, it's going to be safer, and with providing some sort of identification on to any elections, could this be a great source? With that, why should it be mandatory? If we comprehend the issues, driver's licenses count as identification if it were to develop this issue. But what will happen if your driver's license didn't matter? So I am from Arizona. I have a driver's license here in the state. What would happen if I just drove on the on I-10, and let's say I get pulled over and I don't have a driver's license? Do I have the right to drive? Will I be able to drive on the road without a driver's license? No, you're supposed to have a driver's license, so a police officer can identify who you are. And it's the same issue if you're going to traveling across the country or the entire world. When you go to the TSA airport, you're mandatory to provide an identification saying, hey, are you able? Oh. And when you travel around the world, you're supposed to give the TSA some sort of identification. Without that identification, are you able to travel? people will say no, and it's true. You can't travel without some sort of identification proving that are you a citizen from that particular country or that particular state. And how are the TSA are going to figure out that you're from there? So it's also the same point when it comes to voting. Are these people that vote, are they able to vote? Without some sort of identification, are they able to? So there's a lot of arguments when it comes to that, and this is not just a Democratic or a Republican issue. This is for everyone that is involved, including people that are about to vote, like myself. But do our votes matter? Of course they do. And does your identity, who you are as a person, does that matter to you? And of course it does. In 2005, the United States passed the Real Identification Act, which means that for any standards of identification, you must provide a Social Security when you apply, getting a license, or do most of anything. And it's true. And this source, it actually accommodates on this particular topic. When you go out to buy a car, you're supposed to provide identification to whoever you're buying the car out from. And there's just a lot of things that they're mandatory that you're supposed to. And the only thing that we don't see is why doesn't apply to voting. If voting is a right, why is that not an issue? So a lot of people have different critiques on it. But this, I'm not saying that hey, you should get ID or anything like that. But this will help a lot of our elections, and this will help, proving your identity does matter. So as we look into the next slide, there are about 34 states that include strict photos ID. For example, Texas includes a very strict photo ID. So, when you go up to the polls in Texas, you're kind of mandatory to provide some sort of identification photo. If you look to Florida, any type of photo of yourself works. Into the blue states, including Arizona, it is it's like you're able to. It's not required, but many will say, yeah, it's required. So we have that. And so will this help our mandatory elections? And like this to say, yeah, this will help our elections. So with that, many poll workers and officials strongly believe that this issue can dissolve some of the cases of cheating. As we talked earlier about the fraud, this can also dissolve the whole believement of is this cheating or not. So we have this occurrence. So with that, will this process make it simpler? Of course it will. Many of the poll workers have always explained that without having to put down all the information down, just having your identification, such as driver's license, it will just make their job just a bit more easier. And of course there will be people opposed to this, but will this be opposed to this mandatory? Yeah. They feel opposed to the act of why should it mandatory because many Americans feel as they're being discredited to their vote, and many believe that it doesn't make it fair. Well, you can talk about that, but regardless, it would make it fair for every election, and people just have to obey with that and have to know that. So with that is my presentation. I appreciate everyone's time tuning into my presentation on my speech on why voting for the ID must be mandatory. And these are all of my references. Thank you.